Stefano Marino struggled to stand up, and upon hearing footsteps, he coldly snapped, "Get lost." The next second, he heard the muffled sobs of a woman before him and froze. "Anna?" He looked into the distance and saw me standing at the entrance of the alley, watching coldly. In my previous life, I had recklessly taken a bullet for him, but the moment he realized he was unharmed, he immediately pushed me away. When he looked at me, his gaze was filled with nothing but indifference. Once his and my family's soldati arrived on the scene, he handed my severely injured self to my family's soldati without a second thought. Then, he took Anna Costa's hand and left the place with her. "Stefano, I'm just glad you're okay," Anna said before passing out in Stefano's arms. Seeing her wound, Stefano instantly understood what had happened. When his soldati arrived, he shielded Anna in his arms and swiftly rushed toward the black sedan. As he passed by me, he didn't even spare me a glance. I knew that the assassination Stefano encountered today was due to someone within the family leaking his whereabouts. In my previous life, Stefano uncovered the truth that very night. Having lived through this once before, I saw no need to intervene this time. During the pursuit earlier in the morning, I was also injured. But with my family's declining influence and to maintain my own standing, I chose not to seek professional medical help. While bandaging my wounds late at night, I suddenly heard a knock on the window. Staggering over to open it, I was stunned to see Stefano standing outside. "What are you doing here?" He had somehow bypassed all the guards and come to me alone. Stefano stood at the door, his expression icy. "You did that on purpose today, didn't you?" I averted my gaze. "You're overthinking it." Stefano grabbed my wrist. "You were the closest to me, yet you suddenly stepped back and pushed Anna in front of me. If anything happens to her, will you finally be satisfied?" I couldn't help but think Stefano had lost his mind. Believe whatever you want. When I saved him, he acted as if I were a nuisance. Yet, when the woman he loved stepped in to rescue him, he turned around and accused me of orchestrating it all. If I had known this was going to happen, I would have just let the bullet pierce his heart and be done with it. A cold breeze swept in, sharpening the sting of my wounds. Thus, I had no choice but to say to him, "I was injured too today. If there's nothing else, you should leave." Stefano was likely taken aback by my attitude, as he had never seen me like this before. After a momentary pause, he let out a scornful laugh. "Anita, are you trying to play the victim with me now? Do you think I'd pity you?" I stared at him, speechless. So, this was how he saw me. For years, my feelings for Stefano had been an open secret. And because of my love for him, I had all but erased myself in his presence. He once said he liked women in long skirts, so every day, I showed up before him, wearing a different one. When he mentioned he admired women who could cook, I devoted myself to the kitchen, experimenting with dishes day after day. I thought that at the very least, my efforts would earn me a sliver of his affection. It wasn't until I lay on the operating table, lifeless and carrying a child that would never be born, that I realized, as long as I wasn't Anna, nothing I did would ever matter. The lesson learned from dying once was too painful. Thus, in this second chance at life, I chose to set Stefano free and spare myself from all the heartache. The next day, Stefano ordered an investigation into the assassination attempt. And, to my shock, the primary person of interest was me. Principessa Anita, apart from the injured Miss Anna, you were the only other person present that day. Thus, you are currently the prime suspect. Please cooperate with our investigation. I found it utterly absurd. I was injured that day, too. Stefano's soldato remained stern. Don Marino said you are cunning and may have orchestrated it yourself. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. Cunning? Was that really how Stefano saw me? Disregarding my explanations, Stefano's soldati dragged me straight into a basement. I fought desperately, shouting, "My father is also a Don. If he finds out about this, he'll definitely make you pay." The soldati remained calm. "These are Don Marino's orders, so I'm sure your father will understand." Just like that, I was locked up for 3 days. With my wounds still unhealed and the place damp and dark, I soon developed a fever and passed out. In my dazed state, I heard the sound of a door opening. Then, the scent of a fir tree filled the air as someone lifted me and carried me away. When I woke up, I found myself in a warm room, my wounds freshly bandaged. I asked my soldati, but they only said that my father, Roberto Costa, had already reached a decision on the matter. When Anna recovered and was discharged from the hospital, Stefano personally went to pick her up and escorted her home. Outside the study, I overheard Stefano speaking to Dad. Anna was gravely injured while saving my life, and I can never repay such a debt of gratitude. I hope you'll allow me to marry her so that I can spend the rest of my life loving and protecting her. I thought I had come to terms with all of this, but hearing Stefano speak those words himself still made my heart ache bitterly. He would feel heartbroken over Anna's severe injuries from saving him. Yet in my previous life, when I saved him just the same, he saw me as nothing more than a burden he felt he had to be responsible for. In my previous life, Stefano never wanted to marry me in the first place. It was only because the rumors at the time began to tarnish his image in the Marino family that he felt compelled to take me as his wife. Seeing me standing by the door, Anna walked in and said to Dad with tears in her eyes, "Dad, I think it's best to call off this engagement. After all, how could I ever take Stefano from Anita when he's the one she loves?" Dad glanced in my direction. Stefano immediately stepped in front of me, blocking Dad's gaze. "Principessa Anita, I apologize, but do allow me to say this one final time. I do not love you. No matter what you do, I will never love you. In my heart, there is only Anna." I nodded. "I understand. Rest assured, I will not intrude upon your wedding with Anna. My early congratulations to you both." Perhaps because I sounded too calm, Stefano started sizing me up. Dad walked over and patted my shoulder with a smile. "My dear daughter has finally come to her senses. Don't worry. I'll introduce you to other men who are better and more outstanding." I deliberately avoided looking at Stefano and nodded with a smile. All right. Once Anna and Stefano's wedding was decided, Stefano began visiting the estate daily. In the past, I had to go to great lengths just to catch a glimpse of him. Not only did I have to bribe his soldati, but I also had to pry information from Anna's attendants. And because of this, I was often mocked by her attendants for being shameless. Ironically, now that I had lost all interest, Stefano seemed to linger around me constantly. And it was starting to get annoying. Anna probably assumed I still liked Stefano, because she would always put on this gentle older sister act and come over just to talk to me about him. "Anita, you love sunflowers, right? Stefano had these picked fresh this morning. Would you like me to share some with you?" "Anita, Stefano brought back so many jewelry pieces from Verdun this time. I can't possibly wear them all, so let me give you a few." I lowered my gaze to one of them, a pink diamond ring. I remembered just before the wedding in my previous life, I told Stefano I wanted a pink diamond ring. I told him I didn't care about anything else for the wedding as long as I could have a pink diamond ring. I spoke with such humility, yet Stefano didn't listen at all. But on the day of the wedding, the ring was just a plain, ordinary style. Moreover, it was even a size too big for my finger, and that size could only fit Anna. I was staring at the pink diamond ring, completely lost in thought and unaware of the footsteps approaching outside the door. By the time I noticed, Anna had suddenly fallen in front of me, and the ruby necklace in her hand scattered across the floor. I crouched down to pick it up, only to be blocked by a pair of black leather shoes. "Stefano, please don't blame Anita." Before I could even say a word, Anna began to cry first. Tears rolled down her face one by one, making her look utterly pitiful. "It's all my fault for not holding it properly. It's not because Anita pushed me on purpose," Anna said. Stefano's expression grew darker as he stared at me. "Anita, as soon as your parents are gone, you start bullying Anna. It's a shame she goes out of her way to think of you in every little thing. You truly have a heart of stone." My heart ached unbearably. "I didn't push her," I said through gritted teeth, fighting back tears. Anna quickly grabbed my hand and pretended to comfort me. "Anita, it's all right. It's all my fault. Please don't be angry." Before she could finish, Stefano pulled her behind him protectively. Stino looked at me with nothing but hostility in his eyes. I didn't mind how casual you used to be with Anna before, but now that she's going to marry me and become the Donna of my family, I can't just stand by and do nothing while you bully her. He turned to Anna, his voice softening noticeably. Anna, don't worry. I'll stay at your house these next few days until your parents return. Then he shot me a sharp, warning glance. In the past, whenever I knew Stefano was coming to our house, I would happily dress up, let alone if he were staying here. But now, there wasn't a trace of joy on my face. Not seeing the reaction he expected, Stefano seemed slightly taken aback. Nevertheless, he still warned me. During this time, you'd better keep a certain distance from me so as not to give outsiders reason to gossip. The next morning, Stefano went to the kitchen to specifically make breakfast for Anna. To make sure I knew about it, Anna intentionally spoke loudly as I passed by. Unfortunately, as I walked past the kitchen, I didn't pause at all. Instead, I went straight to the garage and drove myself out to have breakfast elsewhere. On my way back, I stopped by a salon and dyed my hair. When Stefano saw me, he let out a scoff. Anita, isn't this a rather low tactic to use just to get my attention? Don't flatter yourself. I didn't dye my hair for you, I replied flatly. I had wanted to dye my hair red for a long time, so it wasn't exactly a spur-of-the-moment decision. Stefano's eyes then fell on my short skirt. Is this also part of your new strategy? I ignored him and turned to leave. My legs were naturally long and slender, and I had been praised for them since I was young. Short skirts suited me the best, but I never wore them before simply because Stefano preferred understated elegance. Behind me, Stefano watched me leave, his gaze still indifferent. But the hand clutching his phone tightened again and again. Anna approached and gently took his arm. Stefano, Anita has become so rebellious lately that she doesn't even listen to me anymore. Do you think she's still upset about our marriage? Stefano lowered his eyes. Let her be. No matter what tactics she uses to seek attention, she can't do anything to us as long as we ignore her. I neither knew about their conversation nor cared to find out. I went out in the afternoon because Dad had arranged a blind date for me. It was my first time meeting him, and just as Dad had said, he was someone whose qualities were in no way inferior to Stefano's. We shared many common interests and topics of conversation. For a first meeting, we got along surprisingly well. When I returned that evening, I saw Stefano sitting in the living room with his head bowed. Having loved him for years in my previous life and spent several more in marriage, no one understood him better than I did. Just one glance at his posture told me that his migraine had flared up again. Stefano had always been one to care deeply about his pride. He had to be sitting here now because he didn't want Anna or anyone else to notice his condition. Originally, I had no intention of getting involved. But after taking a few steps, I remembered how when I once had a fever in my previous life, it was Stefano who got the medicine for me and called a doctor. Fine. I would just treat him as a guest in this house and offer the hospitality expected of a host. Turning around, I took out a box of medicine and handed it to him. When he looked up, our eyes met. He probably never expected that I would know about his migraines, let alone bring him medicine. But after a moment, he took the medicine and said mockingly, "Are you trying to make me owe you?" I ignored his sarcasm and went straight back to my room. And so, I didn't notice the growing intensity in Stefano's gaze as he watched me leave. 2 days later, Stefano suddenly stormed in angrily and threw a pair of lacy underwear at my face. "Anita, you really are a shameless woman." I was utterly confused, but the underwear was indeed mine. Yet, how on earth did it end up in Stefano's hands? Baffled and burning with shame, I asked, "How did you get this?" Stefano sneered coldly. "Is this another one of your tricks? Playing hard to get, are we? Pretending you don't love me anymore, yet scheming behind my back to sleep with me? Anita, you're truly despicable." I instinctively tried to explain. There must be some misunderstanding. I didn't put this in your room. Stefano cut me off before I could finish, his voice dripping with mockery. "Anita, did you really think these petty tricks of yours would make me see you differently? My heart belongs to Anna alone. His gaze grew colder with each word, as if I were some kind of criminal. As he turned to leave, he added, "The next time you see Anna, I expect you to address her as Donna Marino." The next day, Stefano and Anna officially set their wedding date. After informing me, Anna even came to me in tears. She said she didn't have many friends and asked me to be her bridesmaid, appealing to our blood ties. I wanted to refuse, but Dad called me into his study and insisted I accept. In the end, I had no choice but to agree. Once I had accepted, he immediately followed up by asking when I planned to start considering my own marriage. Remembering my last encounter with the man from the blind date, I instinctively touched the necklace he had given me and replied shyly, "I've already met someone I like." Dad glanced at the necklace around my neck and then asked in a puzzled tone, "Who is it?" My cheeks flushed slightly as I answered, "The one you introduced me to last time." Dad looked taken aback. "But didn't you end up not going to see him?" I froze. "What? No, that couldn't be right. I definitely went, and we had a pleasant conversation. We even exchanged contact information and agreed to meet again." Hearing me say this, Stefano sneered coldly from the side. Principessa Anita must have met him in her dreams. He didn't believe me, let alone believe that I went to meet another man. "Dad, I really did go. In fact, this necklace was a gift from him." I insisted firmly. I placed the necklace in front of Dad, and Stefano's expression stiffened slightly. After leaving the study, Stefano suddenly pulled me into a corner and said, "If you behave and stop scheming, I can treat you like a sister. I'll even have meals with you and spend time with you." I let out a light laugh and replied seriously, "Stefano, I don't love you anymore. In fact, I'm interested in someone else now." After hearing this, Stefano pressed closer step by step. "Then, tell me, if you don't love me anymore, why are you still wearing a necklace with elements of my family?" I took a step back and snapped loudly, "This necklace has nothing to do with you. It's late, you should get some rest." In the shadows, Anna was staring intently at my back, her face cold and grim. The wedding ceremony was set to take place in 7 days. Just when everything seemed perfectly prepared, chaos erupted right before it began. Anna's wedding gown had been sabotaged. When she opened her wardrobe, she found it replaced with a nun's habit, with a crude skull drawn on the inside. She wept pitifully, and everyone crowded around to comfort her. I walked over to take a closer look at the details of the wardrobe, but Anna suddenly grabbed my hand. "Anita, I know you've liked Stefano since we were young, but he's your future brother-in-law. We're family, so how could you let your obsession drive you to curse me? That day in Dad's study, you even said yourself that you no longer had feelings for Stefano. Why go back on your word on the day of our wedding?" Upon hearing this, everyone in the room fell silent and fixed their eyes on me. My feelings for Stefano were once so openly and unabashedly worn that they were practically a public secret. And now, with Anna's wedding dress sabotaged like this, it was only natural that I, as the bridesmaid, would be the prime suspect. I was left speechless for a moment, unsure where to even begin explaining. But just as I was about to speak, I saw Stefano, dressed in a tailored suit, walk in and immediately pull Anna into his arms. Taking the cue, Anna tearfully pleaded, "Stefano, maybe you should just marry Anita instead. I'm so frightened that I'll be jinxed." As soon as she finished speaking, Stefano kicked me hard, sending me crashing into the closet. My body slammed against the solid wood, and for a moment, the pain was so intense I could hardly breathe. This wasn't the first time Stefano had rejected me, but it was the first time he had laid hands on me in front of everyone. Shame and pain washed over me, deepening my disappointment in him once again. Lowering my head, I mustered what little strength I had left and asked hoarsely, "Stefano, have you ever truly believed me?" Stefano stood still, his gaze utterly indifferent as he looked at me. "Never." "Anita, since you've repeatedly hurt Anna without regard, don't blame me for being merciless." With that, he gave a cold wave of his hand. Several bodyguards stepped forward and restrained me firmly. As I lay there unable to move, They stripped my clothes and used a knife to carve a skull on my arm. Stefano said this was only a fraction of the pain Anna had suffered. When the blade cut through my skin, the sharp pain brought tears streaming down my face. I wanted to beg for mercy, but my mouth was covered, leaving me unable to utter a word through the agony. Just as I was on the verge of passing out, a figure dressed in black suddenly appeared. "Stop." The newcomer swiftly kicked away the bodyguard restraining me and pulled me into his protective embrace. I heard Stefano furiously shouting, "Who are you? How dare you interfere with the affairs of the Marino family? Do you have a death wish or something?" It was Fabio Genovese. With trembling hands, I tried to struggle out of his embrace. I didn't want him to make an enemy of Stefano, but instead, Fabio took off his coat and wrapped it around my nearly exposed body. After making sure I was completely covered, he scooped me up into his arms and carried me away. Only when we passed Stefano did he spare him a brief glance. "I'm Anita's boyfriend. From now on, I suggest you show some self-respect, Don Marino." Stefano's gaze darkened as he stared intently at Fabio carrying me away. When Fabio had walked over, he could clearly see that the necklace around Fabio's neck was identical to mine. Anna approached and called out softly, "Stefano." In an instant, Stefano's expression shifted, and his gaze softened considerably. He patted the back of Anna's hand, then took a few steps forward. "Anita has certainly become bold. Now, she's even scheming to bring outsiders in to back her up. I just wonder where she found that person and how she will realize the consequences of provoking me." Anna also stepped forward, feigning concern. "Since Anita already has a boyfriend, why does she still cling to you so desperately? The reason she disrupted our wedding today is clearly to create another chance to marry you herself, no?" Stefano scoffed. "She should just give up. I will only ever love you in this lifetime, Anna." Just then, Dad arrived, escorted by several of his soldati. It was unclear how they had briefed him, but he first scanned the room before letting his gaze settle on Fabio and me. "Don Genovese, what exactly happened here?" I tried to answer in a hoarse voice, but Fabio beat me to it. "Don Costa, you may want to ask Anna about that." Dad was taken aback for a moment, but after a brief glance at Stefano, he quickly offered an apology. "Don Genovese, my deepest apologies. I can't believe a disgrace within our own family has troubled you enough to step in personally." As soon as the words left his mouth, the expression of those present shifted dramatically. "Genovese? As in the Genovese family, the most powerful of the four mafia families? The notoriously elusive Fabio Genovese from the legends?" Stefano's face tightened slightly, and his gaze toward Fabio grew noticeably stiffer. But he held his ground and scoffed. "Don Genovese, I didn't expect you to have so much free time on your hands that you'd bother to flirt with a woman as fixated on her future brother-in-law as Anita." Fabio didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, he said to Dad, "Don Costa, the story between Principessa Anita, one of three, and me is a long one. When you have the time, I'd be happy to explain everything to you. For now, though, we should focus on dealing with this mess." As he finished speaking, Fabio turned his gaze toward Anna, who was still sobbing behind Stefano. "Anna, has someone wronged you?" Dad asked. "As your dad, I will see that justice is served." Anna glanced briefly at me, then quickly lowered her head. "And no one has wronged me. It's all just a misunderstanding." The more she spoke, the more she lowered her head, making it impossible for anyone looking on to believe she hadn't been mistreated. Stefano shielded Anna in his arms. "Anna is as kind-hearted as an angel. She endures in silence only because she doesn't want to cause conflict within the family. But as the Don of my family, I cannot bear to see my woman suffer unjustly." With that, he glared at me. "What happened today was all Anita's doing. She stole Anna's wedding dress, jinxed her, and even brought outsiders here to watch the spectacle. Her heart is as venomous as a viper's. As her future brother-in-law, I only had her disciplined lightly as a warning. I hope she learns her lesson from now on." Stefano spoke with such conviction that Dad could hardly believe it. He widened his eyes and looked at me with a searching gaze. "Anita Is all of this true? Did you really do those things to hurt Anna? You told me you no longer had feelings for Stefano, so why would you do something like this? My nose stung, and tears of injustice spilled uncontrollably from my eyes. I never imagined that one day, even my own dad would doubt me. This felt more painful than death itself. Trembling, I slowly raised my arm. The fresh, bloodied marks carved by the knife looked utterly horrifying. Dad, I didn't do it. I swear to God, I had nothing to do with what happened today. When Dad saw the wounds, his expression instantly turned grave. The soldati behind him quietly reached for their weapons. He turned to Stefano, his voice rising with anger. Don Marino, what proof do you have that Anita was behind all this? And by what authority did you take it upon yourself to punish her like this? I sent someone to check the surveillance footage, but it had already been tampered with. Stefano replied calmly. But who else besides Anita could have both the motive and the means to do something like this? Fabio chuckled lightly and said provokingly to Stefano, Don Marino, just because the footage was damaged, you think that closes the case? With a snap of his fingers, a team of people carrying laptops entered the room. Fortunately, I happened to have a professional team capable of restoring it. At this, Anna's face went deathly pale. The surveillance footage would take some time to restore, so Pablo arranged for a medical team to come and trust my wounds. During that interval, the two of us exchanged a few words. I was only then that I learned Fabt and I had actually attended the same school and were even part of the same cha back then, though I was so fixated on Stefano that I never noticed someone like Pablo. Over on the other side, Anna grew visibly uneasy. She approached Stefano and said, Stefano, I can just wear one of the backup wedding gowns. You had several custom-made for me, I'll simply change into another. Besides, the guests are all here today, so let's just go ahead with the ceremony. But Stefano didn't see it that way. His gaze remained fixed on Fabio and me, and he even evaded Anna's hand when she reached for him. He felt an inexplicable irritation, resenting the sensation of things slipping beyond his control. When he looked down and saw Anna's pitiful expression, another wave of unexpected annoyance washed over him. We can postpone the wedding until next month. After saying this, Stefano turned to give orders to the soldato beside him. Anna's face darkened, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something. Yet no words came out. I never expected the wedding to be cancelled. Barely 2 months had passed from the assassination attempt to today's ceremony. In my previous life, my own wedding to Stefano was delayed again and again. In fact, it took a full 2 years before preparations even began. Looking back, I always thought it was because Stefano loved Anna so much that he couldn't wait to marry her. But now, with the wedding just around the corner, Stefano had actually called it off. Dad, standing nearby, asked what exactly had happened between Fabio and me. Though a little embarrassed, I answered truthfully. Following Dad's suggestion, I went on a blind date. But when I entered the restaurant, I mistook Fabio for the man I was supposed to meet. After all, he stood out so strikingly in appearance among the crowd. Especially when I sat down and was about to introduce myself, Fabio was the first to say my name. That only made me even more certain that he was my intended date. Never did it once cross my mind that it was all just a misunderstanding. Fabio knew everything, yet he said nothing. Instead, he just watched as I made a fool of myself in front of him. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smack him lightly. You knew all along, so why didn't you tell me? Did you enjoy watching me stay in the dark like that? Fabio simply smiled and replied, If I had, what if you'd been scared off by me? My cheeks flushed red. Since then, Fabio and I started seeing each other often. For one, I disliked staying at home and watching Anna and Stefano's constant displays of affection raid for another. I discovered that Pablo and I shared many common interests, so every moment spent with Famtet genuinely joyful. Whenever I was with him, time seemed to slip away, and I always wished I could stay try his side a little tongra. Gradually, I started returning home later and later. A few times, Stefano would be waiting by the door when I came back, sneering that I was throwing myself at Fabio. Yet on other occasions, he would be drunk and ask if I was avoiding. I never answered because none of that mattered anymore. Fabio and I were officially together now. It was also through him that I learned he was the one who had saved me from the basement that day. A few days later, Fabio's team successfully restored the surveillance footage. In the footage, Anna appeared alone, sneaking into the room to swap out the wedding gown. She then took a knife and carved a skull onto the closet. As she carved on, her face was twisted and feral. She muttered under her breath, calling my name over and over, repeatedly telling me to die. When Dad saw this, he slammed the table in anger. So, Anna was the one behind all of this. Anna was not my parents' biological daughter. Back then, her parents died protecting Dad, and since then, he had taken her in and raised her as his own. Everything from food and clothing to housing and transportation was provided equally between us. In other words, there was never any favoritism. Yet Anna was never satisfied. She would always avoid or tamper with the surveillance cameras, then deliberately frame me. In my previous life, Stefano, Dad, and even my schoolmates would believe the pitiful Anna and assume I was the one in the wrong. Now that the truth was out, Dad was so furious that he canceled the wedding Anna had been longing for. I sighed softly. Perhaps this was what they called reaping what one sowed. I turned and had someone make several copies of the footage. Then, I sent one of them to Stefano, right after the wedding was canceled. Anna was deeply unhappy. At first, Stefano would still try to cheer her up, promising that the next ceremony would be even grander and that her gown would be redesigned by a renowned designer. He also bought her plenty of jewelry, but she remained unsatisfied and kept wanting more. Eventually, Stefano's patience wore thin. Anna, since when did you become so greedy? Alma's expression froze, but then she quickly put on her pitiful act. I just feel so bad for you that the wedding you put so much effort into is ruined by Anita. Hearing this, Stefano softened again. Let's not bring this up anymore. I already punished Anita for you, so just let it go. When Anna heard him say that, her face twisted with rage. Just that little bit of punishment was far from enough. In fact, Anna wanted nothing less than for me to be despised by everyone. Why was I handed everything from birth, while Anna had to trade her parents' lives just to obtain any of it? And to earn people's affection, she had to pretend to be gentle, kind, modest, and humble. Seeing Stefano glance her way, Anna quickly softened her expression again and said gently, "You're right, I should let it go. It's all just because Anita loves you so much that she simply lost her way for a moment." Stefano's expression darkened. The image of me being affectionate with Fabio flashed through his mind. And the moment it did, a fire seemed to ignite in his chest, driving him toward a restless fury. Wanting to distract himself with other messages, Stefano pulled out his phone. But just then, he noticed I had sent him something. His brow eased slightly as he tapped to open it, only to find the surveillance footage from that day. Anna didn't know what Stefano was looking at, but she felt a growing chill around her. Stefano's expression, too, grew increasingly colder. She reached out and hugged Stefano, trying to sound sweet and concerned. "Stefano, what's wrong? Is something bothering you?" Stefano looked at Anna clinging to him, but there was no warmth in his eyes. "Anna, I'm willing to give you one more chance to come clean about what really happened on the day of the wedding." Anna's face stiffened. Still playing innocent, she asked, "Stefano, what are you talking about? That day was all Anita's fault." She dashed. Stefano pushed her away angrily. "You're still lying to me." Then, he shoved the phone in her face, the screen playing the exact moment Anna carved the skull. Anna's face went deathly pale as she trembled. "Stefano, no. It isn't like that. This is all Anita's doing. She's trying to trick you." Stefano remained unmoved. "This is surveillance footage. What possible means could Anita have to fabricate even this?" Anna collapsed to the floor. She never imagined the footage could be recovered one day. Now, with solid evidence laid out before her, any excuse she offered would sound hollow and weak. Even so, she refused to give up. "Stefano, it was all because I love you. I was afraid of losing you. You always said you didn't love Anita, but I know you. Whenever there's news about her, you pay extra attention." Stefano refused to admit it. Nonsense. But Anna pressed on. "Back at the estate, whenever Anita went out, you always noticed what time she came back and whether someone brought her home. And whenever she was around, you'd be extra patient with me and even agree to things you usually wouldn't." Stefano, I was afraid and felt so insecure. I had no choice but to do this. I was terrified that one day you might leave me, too. Stefano now saw Anna as a complete stranger. He couldn't understand how she had changed so much, nor could he grasp why she was so convinced he had feelings for me. Even though he used to despise me so much that he once stayed home for half a month just to avoid, couldn't deny that when I suddenly stopped paying him any attention, he did feel oddly unsettled. Moreover, Anna was exactly his type, gentle, refined, and elegant. Yet, as she wept pitifully before him, he felt no trace of the tenderness he would have once shown. Instead, a wave of irritation washed over him. He didn't understand why he felt this way. Perhaps it was because Anna had grown calculating and manipulative, and it had begun to wear on him. Now that he thought about it, if Anna had sabotaged her own wedding, didn't that mean he had wrongfully blamed me? He had even gone so far as to order my punishment in public. The mere thought of it made Stefano's heart feel as though it were being wrung out. He grabbed his coat and headed out. He knew he was in the wrong here, but he thought I had always been so into him. So, all he had to do was apologize and offer me a little something, and surely I would forgive him. Stefano came to an abrupt halt outside my door. But then again, even if he was wrong, why should he humble himself like this? With that thought in mind, he took out his phone and sent me a text telling me to come out by myself. But when the message was sent, a notification appeared showing it couldn't be delivered. I had blocked him. Stefano stood outside my room for a long time until someone finally invited him to leave the premises. Given his usual temperament, he would have walked away much earlier. In fact, I never expected him to be so persistent. Even late into the night, he remained standing there, unmoving. "Principessa Anita, won't you go down? Don Marino is still waiting for you." When I shook my head, "If he wants to stand there, let him. He'll leave when he gets tired." Sure enough, just a few minutes after I said that, my soldati came to report that Stefano had left. After the surveillance footage was made public, Dad felt so sorry for me that he cut off all contact with the Marino family, severing any further dealings with them. Our families had been allies for generations, so that sudden break sent shockwaves through the underworld. After all, not only was the wedding abruptly cancelled, but even our long-standing relations had been severed. Some insiders leaked rumors claiming I was scheming and jealous of Anna. They only saw what happened backstage at the wedding and knew nothing of the truth. The hearsays spread, my reputation plummeted. Even at social events, I was met with disdainful glances. I had grown used to it, so it didn't really bother me. However, I never expected Stefano to suddenly show up in front of two socialites and say firmly, "The wedding was cancelled for reasons that have nothing to do with Principessa Anita. You two need to apologize to her now." His defense of me only made me frown. I couldn't help but feel a surge of disgust. After uttering a flat "thank you," I turned and walked away. "Anita, wait," Stefano called out to me. I had never heard Stefano speak in such a humble tone, so I was caught off guard for a moment. Seizing the chance, Stefano stepped closer and reached for my arm. I flinched and quickly pulled away. I decided it was necessary to use this public moment to set things straight. "I'm Fabio's friend now, so I hope you will conduct yourself appropriately, Don Marino." Stefano let a low scoff, followed by a weary sigh. "Are you still angry with me? Fine. I'll apologize. I was too teve Anna before, which led me to wrongfully blame you for things you never did. Don't have to throw yourself away like this. Someone as shrewd and unfathomable as Fabio isn't one you should ever get involved with." My expression turned cold. I didn't like hearing anyone speak about Fabio that way. "Don Marino, you be joking. What right do you have to comment on Fabio?" Stefano froze, his gaze darkening. "Are you serious?" I nodded. Please show some restraint and keep your distance from now on. I wouldn't want Fabio to misunderstand. Stefano instantly grew angry. Anita, do you have to speak to me like this now? I let out a mocking laugh. Weren't you the one who told me to keep my distance? Fine, Stefano sighed helplessly, then added, I was in the wrong before. Let me make it up to you by taking you to eat your favorite Virginese food, okay? I couldn't help but laugh scornfully. My favorite is actually Avilian food. It's Anna who likes Virginese food, not me. Stefano froze, then quickly apologized. I'm sorry. A short while later, he came back trying to make conversation. You look really good with red hair. I smiled. Really? Fabio likes my red hair, too. Stefano was left speechless. Without another glance in his direction, I turned and walked out of the party. But as I walked down the corridor, I suddenly heard footsteps behind me. Stefano forcefully pinned me against the wall and growled, Are you really willing to get close to a man like Fabio just to spite me? Haven't you heard the rumors about him? I know exactly what kind of man Fabio is, I replied wearily with a sigh. And I would never do anything just to spite you. You no longer matter to me at all. With that, I pushed him away and walked out. Outside, Fabio was waiting for me in his car. It was unclear whether he had spotted Stefano coming after me, but his expression turned uncharacteristically dark and somber. I leaned in and kissed his cheek. Aren't you going to say hi to me? He instantly softened and pulled me into the car seat before kissing me fiercely until I was breathless. When I looked up, I happened to see Stefano standing by the car window. His eyes were red, his breathing ragged. But just as I had said earlier, he no longer mattered to me. Let's go, I said to Fabio. In the days that followed, I began learning how to manage the family. After hearing the rumors circulating outside, I made the surveillance footage public. And in just one day, my reputation and Anna's underwent a complete reversal. Anna was scorned by everyone. Dad publicly severed ties with her, leaving her with no choice but to beg Stefano to take her in by appealing to the debt he owed her for saving his life. As for me, when someone anonymously sent me those so-called rumors about Fabio, I tossed them into the fireplace without a second thought. For a Don, a fearsome reputation was more of a compliment than a stain. Besides, having been wrongly accused myself, I trusted what I saw with my own eyes more than any hearsay. At the end of the day, all that truly mattered was that we lived our lives well. As for Stefano, I saw him again late one night. He had been drinking, and for some reason, he brought his soldati to our estate and refused to leave. Dad had no choice but to ask me to handle the situation. When I went downstairs, Stefano stared at my necklace for a long time. In the past, he believed I wore it because of him. Only now did it dawn on him that it had always been for Fabio. Suddenly, he snapped and tried to snatch the necklace off my neck. The bodyguards beside me reacted swiftly and restrained him. After being restrained, Stefano erupted in a frenzy, shouting, Anita, didn't you say you'd always love me? Why did you change so suddenly? You used to risk your life for me. Why are you clinging to another man now? What does Fabio have that I don't? How could he have changed you so much? Is it because you think he's better in bed? Anita, give me a try. Believe me, I won't let you down. As he spoke, he lunged toward me again, only to be held back once more by my bodyguards. I took out a wet wipe and wiped the spots where Stefano had touched me with disgust. Stefano, I've already told you I don't love you anymore. Why won't you believe me? You don't love me anymore? Stefano asked with an almost obsessive intensity. Anita, you started loving me from the moment you first learned what love was. For 12 whole years, no matter what kind of man appeared by your side, you never once wavered. After all these years, can you really just walk away like that? My nose stung. It turned out Stefano had known all along. He knew exactly how I felt and understood every thought I had. And because of that, he felt free to mistreat me as he pleased. In the end, it was because I had placed Stefano on such a pedestal that I allowed him to treat me this way. Unwilling to engage with him any further, I turned to leave. Yet, to my shock, he suddenly reached out and violently yanked my necklace, snapping it from my neck. Anita, one actually dash. Before he could finish, he saw my tears falling one by one. Panicked, he quickly held out the broken necklace toward me. Don't cry, Anita. This is all my fault. Please don't be sad. I'll buy you another one. 1,000, 10,000, whatever you want. I'll buy every necklace in the world for you. Just please stop crying. I slapped his hand away and looked at him coldly. Stefano, I guess I was just blind before. From now on, let's pretend we don't know each other and just move on, okay? Stefano's outstretched hand froze in place. I stood up and walked away, and this time, Stefano didn't try to stop me. Only after a long while did he murmur to himself. It definitely wasn't like hick hose. To Miggles moi changed? The next day, I took the initiative to tell Fabio about what happened to the necklace Vasjected him made angry, or perhaps to take me to have a new one custom made. Instead, he pulled out a ring engraved with a flame insignia and said, Anita, our relationship should danger with this. Will you marry me? I could hardly believe what I was seeing, and with tears in my eyes, I nodded. On the day of my wedding to Fabio, Stefano showed up holding a bouquet of sunflowers. Dressed in formal attire, he stood before me and said, Anita, I remember when we were young, you said me how you hoped to have sunflowers as the theme of our wedding. After gazing at the sunflowers blooming brightly before me, I gently plucked a pita and watched it deep away. With the wind. Stefano hadn't remembered it wrong this time. I had indeed said those words in the past. But unfortunately, the past was the past. And now I didn't like sunflowers anymore. Stefano continued, Anita, I've finally come to realize that the one I've always loved is you. I was just blinded by Anna in the past, and it wasn't until I lost you that I truly came to my senses. Please give me another chance, I smiled helplessly and said bluntly, Stefano, when I was the one in love with you, you made things difficult for me at every turn. Now that I'm about to get married, you come and tell me you love me. Someone like you wouldn't appreciate what you have even if you got it, so you don't deserve my love at all. Stefano's face turned deathly pale. But before he could say another word, he was pulled away by family members who had rushed over. A year later, I ran into Stefano again on the street. The once confident and spirited man now looked noticeably thinner. He took the initiative to ask how I had been lately. I rested a hand gently on my belly and said, Quite well. I just passed the 4-month prenatal checking. He froze for a moment, then replied in a lowered voice, Anita, I love you. Even if you're with a child, I'd still want to be with you. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. The Stefano from my previous life certainly hadn't said anything. Like that just then, Fabio walked over with the cake he had bought for me. Hearing this, he handed the cake to one of his soldati and without a word, threw a punch straight at Stefano. Stefano didn't dodge, nor did he call for his soldati to retaliate. By the time Fabio had finished venting his anger and stepped back, Stefano was already bruised and swollen beyond recognition. Gazing at me deeply, he said each word emphatically, Anita, consider this as me paying back what I owe you. I wish you nothing but happiness. Another year passed, and I heard from Dad that Stefano had been tragically killed in a car accident orchestrated by a rival family. But that had nothing to do with me anymore. I had my own child now, and someone who loved me. I was happy.